This could be the moment when U.S. Venezuelan relations shift in ways most people aren't noticing. Today, Donald Trump is set to meet at the White House with Venezuelan opposition leader María Corina Machado, a figure who has become central to the political landscape in Caracas. On the surface, it might seem like just another diplomatic meeting, but the timing and context suggest there's much more at play. Why now? Why her? And what does this mean for both the United States and the broader region? Machado has long been recognized as a leading voice in the Venezuelan opposition, particularly during the controversial 2024 elections. Her party was widely considered to have won, though her victory was disputed by the previous administration under Nicolás Maduro. What's remarkable is that her political trajectory has remained prominent even amid extraordinary events, recent U.S. operations reportedly targeting Maduro and his inner circle, and the shifting dynamics of Venezuelan governance under temporary leadership. This meeting is not merely symbolic, it may signal a recalibration of strategy from Washington toward Caracas. Trump has described the upcoming discussions in cautious terms, emphasizing that the focus will be on basic issues and mutual understanding. At the same time, U.S. political analysts note that the timing is anything but ordinary. Following the capture of Maduro and his wife earlier this month, and their subsequent transfer to New York for trial on alleged drug trafficking charges, this is the first high-profile interaction of this kind. Many are asking, is this purely political, or does it indicate the beginning of a more structured plan for engagement in the region? Meanwhile, the acting president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodríguez, has signaled a more pragmatic stance toward Washington. According to public statements, her administration intends to continue releasing certain detainees, reportedly under encouragement from U.S. officials. While these steps are carefully framed as humanitarian or administrative, they also suggest a potential thawing of relations, or at least a strategic alignment on specific issues. For international observers, every move is scrutinized, from statements to personnel decisions, each action could foreshadow significant shifts in policy. The U.S. Senate has recently weighed in as well. A resolution intended to limit the president's ability to take further military action without prior congressional approval was defeated, with a few Republican senators reversing their positions after consultations with the Trump administration. This legislative backdrop adds layers of complexity, revealing that any foreign engagement, whether diplomatic, economic, or otherwise, occurs in a context of domestic political negotiation. In other words, what happens in Caracas may not only be about Venezuela, it could reflect broader calculations about U.S. influence and authority abroad. It's also worth noting the legal and strategic dimensions. The administration received approval from the Department of Justice to take certain military actions, even while leaving open questions regarding international law. The implications are significant, but rather than jumping to conclusions, it's important to interpret them as part of a pattern. The United States appears intent on asserting influence while testing the boundaries of international norms. This approach raises questions about how diplomacy, law, and strategy intersect when high-stakes situations emerge suddenly. Beyond policy and legal frameworks, the humanitarian and social dimensions cannot be ignored. Venezuelan citizens have faced years of economic and political instability, and public sentiment is deeply affected by any international intervention, real or perceived. While there is potential for constructive engagement, through negotiations, prisoner releases, or economic initiatives, the uncertainty can also fuel skepticism. Observers both inside and outside Venezuela are closely monitoring how these interactions could translate into tangible improvements for everyday life. Trump's stated goals, according to interviews, are focused on practical outcomes rather than symbolic gestures. He has described Machado as very capable and emphasized discussions around governance, stability, and cooperation. At the same time, the optics of the meeting send a clear message: the United States remains actively involved in Venezuelan affairs, whether through direct diplomacy, strategic oversight, or indirect influence. For analysts, the timing, participants, and tone all offer clues about potential next steps. Looking at the broader hemisphere, this meeting could also reshape regional alliances. Latin American countries are observing closely, and reactions are likely to vary depending on domestic interests, historical ties, and economic considerations. The U.S. approach may affect not only bilateral relations but also broader geopolitical patterns, particularly in how countries align on trade, security, and multilateral initiatives. In this context, every statement, handshake, or press conference carries weight, signaling potential policy trajectories to regional leaders and the international community alike. There are also subtler economic dimensions to consider. Sanctions, trade policies, and strategic resource management are all factors that inform the broader picture. While headlines tend to focus on dramatic political maneuvers, informed analysis suggests that shifts in economic policy, such as easing restrictions or supporting infrastructure initiatives, could have longer-term implications for both Venezuela and the U.S. economy. Understanding these nuances is critical for anyone trying to anticipate outcomes beyond immediate headlines. Meanwhile, domestic politics in the United States intersect with these foreign policy moves. Congressional debates, party alignments, and public opinion all shape the scope of what is possible. By looking at the interaction between executive action and legislative oversight, we gain insight into the complexities of governance in high-stakes international situations. In other words, every diplomatic meeting is layered within a matrix of political, legal, and societal factors that can accelerate or constrain potential outcomes. This meeting also raises questions about precedent. How does engaging with opposition leaders amid ongoing transitions influence future U.S. foreign policy? Will it set a framework for similar interventions, or will it remain a unique response to Venezuela's specific circumstances? Analysts note that while the immediate focus is on stability and dialogue, the long-term effects could reshape diplomatic norms, both regionally and globally. As we track the unfolding developments, it's clear that understanding the full picture requires connecting multiple threads: recent legal approvals, legislative maneuvers, diplomatic interactions, regional responses, and domestic political calculations. Each of these elements provides context for the meeting's significance, suggesting that what might appear as a straightforward diplomatic encounter is in fact embedded within a complex web of influence, negotiation, and strategy. In practical terms, the outcomes could influence not just policy but also perception. Venezuelans and international observers alike are watching for concrete signals, prisoner releases, policy adjustments, and statements of intent. While it's too early to predict definitive results, recognizing the patterns helps frame expectations responsibly, without exaggeration or speculation. Looking forward, several questions emerge. How will Machado's engagement affect the opposition's cohesion and strategy? What role will the U.S. play in shaping transitional governance? And importantly, how will regional powers interpret and respond to these moves? Each of these questions points to broader themes of diplomacy, sovereignty, and influence, emphasizing that the stakes extend well beyond a single meeting room. Even small actions, like public statements or minor policy adjustments, can ripple across borders. For citizens, policymakers, and international analysts, understanding these dynamics requires a careful balance, interpreting developments accurately while avoiding alarmism. The value of this meeting lies not just in immediate outcomes but in the insights it provides about evolving political landscapes and strategic priorities. By observing these patterns closely, viewers can begin to see the underlying forces that shape international relations. It's an opportunity to analyze power dynamics, anticipate policy directions, and consider the interplay between domestic politics and foreign engagement. Rather than sensationalizing events, focusing on context and nuance allows for a richer, more responsible understanding of how global decisions unfold. Ultimately, the meeting between Trump and Machado is a snapshot of broader processes at work: diplomacy, negotiation, strategy, and influence. It is a moment that reveals much about the mechanics of governance, the balancing of interests, and the ways in which leaders navigate complex international environments. For anyone interested in political strategy, this encounter offers a unique window into decision-making at the highest levels. As the day unfolds, analysts will be parsing every detail: who is present, what topics are prioritized, and how statements are framed. These observations will help inform predictions about Venezuela's political trajectory, U.S. engagement in the region, and the potential for broader diplomatic shifts. While uncertainty remains, the context provided by careful analysis allows for informed reflection rather than speculation. The bigger question emerging from this meeting is how nations navigate transitional periods in politically complex environments. What lessons can be drawn about influence, negotiation, and the management of competing interests? Observing interactions between the U.S. and Venezuela provides a live case study in strategic patience, calculated engagement, and the importance of timing in international diplomacy. For viewers following these developments, the takeaway is clear: understanding geopolitics is about connecting dots, analyzing patterns, and recognizing that no single meeting occurs in isolation. The Trump-Machado encounter is part of a broader tapestry of events that influence governance, public policy, and international relations in ways that extend far beyond immediate headlines. Looking ahead, the natural next step is to watch how these interactions translate into concrete actions, both within Venezuela and in Washington. Will dialogue open avenues for more structured cooperation? Will regional powers adjust their strategies in response? And how will domestic audiences interpret these diplomatic gestures? These questions set the stage for continuing coverage and deeper analysis, creating a natural bridge to follow-up videos exploring the unfolding situation in more detail. By following these developments responsibly and attentively, viewers gain insight into the mechanics of diplomacy, the subtleties of political influence, and the evolving nature of leadership in complex environments. The meeting between Trump and Machado is not just a news item, it's an entry point for understanding broader patterns that shape policy, international relations, and the balance of power across a hemisphere. And as the situation continues to evolve, one of the key takeaways is the importance of context, why timing matters, why leadership decisions matter, and how strategic choices made in one country can ripple across borders in ways that are both predictable and surprising. For those interested in following these threads, the next video will explore not only Venezuela's political landscape but also the broader implications for U.S. foreign policy in the Western Hemisphere, including potential economic, diplomatic, and regional consequences. By keeping attention on verified developments and analyzing them responsibly, it becomes possible to see patterns that casual observers might miss. Each diplomatic step, each policy announcement, and each public statement provides clues about where power is consolidating, where influence is shifting, and how nations navigate complex global challenges without resorting to sensationalism or alarmism. The ongoing story between the U.S., Venezuela, and the region is far from complete. As events unfold, staying informed, critically engaged, and attentive to nuance will offer the clearest understanding of what these developments mean, not just in the immediate term, but for the future of diplomacy, governance, and international strategy. The logical next question is, how will Venezuela's domestic opposition leverage this engagement, and how will U.S. policymakers balance strategic interests with regional stability? Exploring these topics further provides both clarity and context, and sets the stage for the next phase of coverage, a deeper dive into the policy, history, and decisions that shape outcomes far beyond a single meeting.